Welcome to the Lead Magnets Podcast, a show for business leaders who want clarity on their marketing direction to help them grow and scale their business to the next level. I am Julie Nichols, owner of Julie Nichols Marketing.
And I'm Dan Gershenson, owner of Caliber Brand Strategy and Content Marketing. We are two fractional chief marketing officers who lead departments for small and medium-sized businesses who want to level the playing field and level up.
And today we are talking about, do I have to be on all the social media channels? Dan, do I have to? It's so much work and it's so overwhelming. So we're going to be talking about that today because, the short answer is no. But we're going to delve into why that is and how you can figure out, if you're just starting to do social media, what are going to be the best channels for you and kind of like how to start getting into it, and then how to figure out okay, when is it time to maybe introduce another social channel or not? I don't know. It really depends. So first of all, Dan, I want to ask you, when people ask you, do I have to be on all the social media channels? What's your advice, high level for them?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I think, there is an urge to be on a lot of things because all the things are out there and in front of our face all the time. Sometimes people, lately they'll say, should I be on TikTok? There's people on TikTok and they seem to be doing all of this. And I always respond by saying, that's them, but think about your business, your goals, your audience, first of all. And just because somebody else has success over here with something, is their business the same as yours, number one? And number two, are you sure that they're going after the same kind of people that you are? And really also, what kind of format and messaging are they doing that might be different than what you most likely are doing? So there's all these variables that go into, it's not a, okay, let's be everywhere kind of thing. I always sort of err on the side of saying, hey, let's take a look at the 1 to 3 types of channels that are really good for us, and we'll identify those. But it really goes back to strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I like to start with a client and be like, well, let's go back to look at your ideal customer persona and see okay, so who is this person? And where are they going on social media? Where are they consuming this content? And, if we really sit down and think it through and we figure out, wait a minute, this person is not on TikTok, okay, let's not worry about TikTok then. Let's just say that's off the table. Okay. Yeah. So it may be something we do in the future if things are going so great that it's why not put it on TikTok? But it's not that simple to just be let's just throw it up on TikTok. It's a lot of work. Every channel is work, and you have a slightly different audience for each channel. So what I would like to do with you right now is if we could kind of talk about each different channel and who are the people that typically use those channels, so that maybe our listeners can get a better idea of oh, I never thought about that channel. Maybe I should. Or, oh, I should not even bother with that one because that's going to be a waste of time. So just go ahead. Name a social media channel. Let's roll the dice.
Well, the biggest thing for me is always LinkedIn when you're talking about business to business. That one is probably a good home base for me, but it's also a good home base for a lot of people who might sell services, especially a complex kind of service, let's say. And if it's the kind of business where somebody's not coming up to a window and saying, I'll take one of those, then LinkedIn could make a lot of sense for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I agree. Short, funny story of how dumb I was when I was starting my business. I was so I have a lot of experience with all of the different social media channels. And so I was you know what? I'm going to focus on Instagram. I love Instagram. I know Instagram. I could totally crush it on Instagram. And yeah, like for several months, I was like, why am I not crushing it on Instagram? Why is nobody buying? Why is nobody reaching out to me? It took me a while because I also was posting on LinkedIn at the time. And it was when I finally got somebody reaching out to me through the DMs because of something I posted on LinkedIn. I was like, wait a minute. Maybe this should be my main channel because I'm directly serving businesses. Like, duh. It was one of those like, duh moments. Like, how stupid are you, Julie? Like, come on, quit wasting your time with Instagram when you're first like trying out social for your business. So for me, LinkedIn is like a no-brainer. It's directly talking to the people that I want to service, which is small businesses.
Yeah.
And the thing about LinkedIn that's so interesting to me is how many people are lurking on LinkedIn and not commenting and not liking, not even engaging, but they're reading, they're watching. And you really like a lot of times with my clients, they'll be like, I'm so frustrated. Like I'm posting on LinkedIn and like I'm not seeing people are not commenting enough. They're not, liking enough. And I'm like, okay, well, but when you talk to people who are interested in your business, who reach out to you through various ways, like, are they noticing you on LinkedIn? And they're like, well, yeah, they actually did mention that they liked my post. And I'm like, see, like, there you go. I had one guy reach out to me who was like, he just sent me a DM. He didn't even comment on the post. He was like, I really liked that story that you wrote in your post. And I was like, why did you comment about it? Like, how here?
Well, and you just illustrated something awesome about this because it is usually it's like this thing where you don't know all the time who's looking at your stuff. You may know if you have premium that I can see who's looking at my my profile, but you don't always know who's going to be looking at your posts and stuff. And so sometimes same thing. I'll get this like comment out of nowhere offline where I really like your stuff. I really like your, what you said the other day on this. And you're just like, there was no likes, comments, any indication that you were even like looking at this at all. And we don't know that stuff. We don't. And it's funny because it just proves that sometimes you have to sort of trust a little bit that there's an audience beyond the obvious audience. There's like this black hole of people like that. That's like they're looking at your stuff and you don't know who they are at all. And that's just they don't always raise their hand. I mean, how many times?
Yeah,
I'll admit it. I probably looked at a lot of stuff and read it and absorbed it and liked it. Not liked it, but just liked it. And
liked it in my head. Like I like that.
Liked it in my head and respected the guy and everything. And I didn't, probably comment or anything like that. I just was like, oh, okay, cool. That's a really good point. But that person would have no indication that, hey, Dan really likes your stuff. So it's definitely one of those things where you just have to trust a little bit of that there's a universe beyond what you can see all the time.
Yeah. It's directly related to brand awareness. Like there are just some things that you just have to keep doing, even if you feel like you're not getting, immediate response to it, that you're not seeing it because like you just said, I went to a networking event, several different networking events over the past 2 weeks. I can't tell you how many people said to me, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I have no idea these people are even reading it. And but the perception is there that I'm a thought leader, that I'm putting information and helping people. And that's what I wanted. And like, it's so important when a new person who just learns about you checks you out on LinkedIn or on your website, they're looking through your old posts and they're then being able to say like, oh, wow, like this person really knows what they're talking about. And so that is the payoff. That's the payoff that you may not be realizing now, but weeks, months down the line, they're going back and seeing everything that you've written and being able to be like, okay, yeah, this is the kind of person I want to work with. Like they're really present. Dan, I think we should do a whole episode just on LinkedIn.
Probably. We probably could. I mean, I promise this will be the last word on that I say on LinkedIn. But the whole thing about any of these things we're going to be talking about today is that whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or anything, just remember within those channels, there's a lot of different types of things you can do as well, which makes that, kind of more important to, in my mind, go narrow and deep rather than wide and thin. So in other words, don't just, cover all the bases that you think are all the bases of 6, 7, 8 different channels. I'd much rather advise clients to say, all right, go into 1 or 2 of these and go really deep into them and really consistent with them and go from there. And then we can kind of, see where that takes us. But, with whether we're talking about LinkedIn or Facebook, for example, there's like 7 different types of things you can do on each of those. So there's no reason why you should only, do that for a little bit if that's where your audience is hanging out.
Yeah. And I think like one example might be like YouTube. So on YouTube, which I know a lot of people don't really consider that a social platform, but it absolutely is. Just ask my children. My 2 11-year-old boys who all they do is watch YouTube and comment and, oh, so-and-so said this and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, Mr. Beast liked my comment. Like, what? I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. Mr. Beast doesn't, he's got like a bazillion comments every time. But I think like, YouTube is such an incredible channel where you can put up, content about yourself in long form. You can put it up in short form, and then you can use that long form on other channels. So you can take a video that you've posted on YouTube, and that could be in a blog. That can be shared on Facebook. It can be shared in several other places. So for me, I feel like YouTube is a really nice, natural second channel to use if LinkedIn is your main channel.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a nice supplement when you're ready, or if you're just going to start out with 2. I think, what are your thoughts on YouTube? And I also, I'm sorry, before we go to you, one other thing is that YouTube, there's a really great tool for those of you listening out there called TubeBuddy, which is an SEO tool that you can connect to your YouTube account that will help you to optimize the captions and the tags in your YouTube videos to help your videos to rank better. It'll also suggest titles. I absolutely use it for our purposes for these videos. And like for a small upcharge, you can do like a ton more things, but it's like generally free for most of it. So I just wanted to put that as that people don't realize that all of these social media channels have their own SEO. They are, their own search engines. And people today are using them as search engines. And so being able to make sure that your captions, the words that you're using in the captions of your videos are optimized.
No, and that's a great suggestion. I think there's definitely what I'm seeing in the last year or so. I've come around to this idea of not, even as I just said, to go a little narrow and deep. There is something to be said for balancing that where you go, okay, I put something on LinkedIn, but YouTube is great in its own way because, sometimes, let's face it, I posted about this not too long ago. I don't want to read all this crap. Like, there's so much. People are doing status updates now, Julie, where it's like, man, these need to be in chapters. They're so long. Like, I mean, the maximum amount. And there's a certain real fatigue that sets in with an audience, I think, where every single person, it feels like on LinkedIn lately, is trying to give me a lesson on something that I didn't ask for. And it's like, okay, this is like, okay, I'm going to spend another 1,000 words reading this and another 1,000 words reading that. And it really slows you down from what you're trying to consume. It's not like you're not trying to learn, but man, it's just a lot. So the point is, I find myself many times watching a YouTube video, or let's say they embedded it in LinkedIn, maybe with some of the text. And I think that's a really good thing to give people as an option, because maybe they don't want to read all that stuff. Maybe they just want to be like, oh, okay, I can see that Dan is talking for 2 minutes. about something, I don't want to read all the stuff that he's got. No disrespect to him, but like I just want to hear what he's got to say. And so that's a great thing to do. And so I think if you can, to your point about the captioning, man, that's good too, because it's not necessarily just for people who, are hard of hearing or something. It's for people who they might be on a bus with a bunch of people. They don't want to turn it up on the volume. Don't be one of those people, please. And then, like, they're precious. I love them.
Everyone loves them.
Yeah, but like, you're reading this stuff, and you're in public transportation. You're like, okay, cool. I'm getting the information that way. So I don't want to read. I don't want to necessarily listen to something at full blast, and there's the captions that just bridge that gap. It's a beautiful thing.
I freaking love captions because then I can watch videos in bed when I'm awake before my husband. And then I keep captions on pretty much all the time on shows because my children will randomly start talking and I'll miss something. But if I have the captions, I don't miss it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
also on the show, because I don't know if you know this, I'm a big Survivor fan. And so there's like things that are sometimes really hard to hear. And like, if you have the captions on, you can be like, ooh, they said that about so-and-so. Like, ooh, what a burn. And like, I wouldn't have caught it if I didn't have the captions on.
I'm doing that now with like all kinds of TV shows now. I feel like I'm 85 years old. Like, What did he say? But like, it's really good, for people just, I think the way they absorb information, it's just, some of us, it's easier for us to not just hear it, but also hear it and read it at the same time. And then we just get it that much faster rather than having to go back and listen to it again. But the funny thing is, in the last week or so, I had this question, and it was about captions, and it was like, I really like to be on a treadmill or something. If I have to watch something like a webinar or seminar, I wouldn't mind doing that while I'm working out or something. Guess what? The only way you can really do that is by having captions, because otherwise you're going to have your iPad go full blast trying to compete with your treadmill noise. So,
yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Or you're gonna, try to crank up the volume on your headphones and kill yourself in the ears. So the best thing sometimes to do in that department, again, one more way to get your information more accessible out there, is while people are doing something else, but they're still locked in, those captions are a lifesaver.
Yeah, they're huge. Like when just talking about accessibility, people who are neurodivergent, people who are hard of hearing, like the more you're able to cater to different kinds of people. And, this is true in learning, when I need an accommodation for my child in the classroom and it actually makes sense to do it for all the kids, everyone benefits. So having captions benefits everybody. Point blank, love captions. We're running out of time, but I want to just touch really quickly on Facebook and Instagram. I want to talk about like the audiences you find there, because I feel like I had this one client where we were really trying to figure out like, why wasn't she getting sales from where she was hoping to get sales? And I said, well, let's talk about your ideal client and what they look like. It turns out the ideal client was really more aged 40 to 60 and female. I was like, this person is on Facebook. Like, this is a Facebook person. Like, they may also be on Instagram, but it's more likely that Facebook is their number one because they're slanting older. Whereas somebody who's maybe like, aged 30 to 45 may be more on Instagram. I've seen a huge, I'm 45 and my friends that I have on Facebook who are like around my age, I've absolutely seen them abandon Facebook and they're just on Instagram now. And I think that this also taps into, people are worried like, oh, but if I post the same thing on multiple channels, like, aren't people going to see that and know that I posted it in more places and that I'm just repeating myself? And I always say to them, like, people don't pay attention that much. Or people aren't on all of those channels.
They really don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, that's you're absolutely right. I think we're in our own head sometimes about that stuff, and we think that people are going to be like, "Oh, he copied and pasted and put it over here or something." And in reality, most of us only see these things once, and I don't think people take it so seriously that they're like, "Well,
Right.
he said
Like,
that over there, but he also said it over the same
unfollow.
thing over there." Like, I can't think of one person that should be saying that, but really, it's more
And they're
about
not going to care. I
they're
don't
not
think
going
people
to.
care.
I mean,
Like,
there
oh,
was there was a person. I'll do it one better. There was a person who said something to the effect of she puts out some free stuff out there on these channels that people can download, PDFs and whatnot. She also has very similar stuff that she charges for. And guess what? That's even crazier, and nobody says anything about that either. So,
yeah,
if anything, I would think somebody would be like, "Oh gosh, wait, why am I paying for this?" What? Nobody ever says anything to her about that. They just see the value, and
right.
so I think people should just kind of put that outside of their head. People, the outside world doesn't care about that as much as you might think.
And I'm going to yes and you here.
Yeah,
And I think that people often don't post because they don't want to sound braggy. Like
yeah,
they don't want to like share their offer or talk about what they do because they're like, I don't want people to think I'm showing off. I literally had somebody said that to me and I said, how else are they going to know what you're doing unless
yeah,
you talk about it?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you got to have a bit of a, you have this, I have this, where, we have a certain a stance, a certain tone, a certain thing that makes us stand out a bit, hopefully. And I think you're never going to be defined by, most of the time, by this post or that post. It's a cumulative effect that goes on. And so
yeah,
I never put anything in a draft folder. I just grip it and rip it. Like I just because and people think like it's something to do with that I don't know that I wouldn't care about it. It's not so much that as much as in my brain, my weird brain. If I don't write it, I don't put it out there right now. Then I'm going to just be thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and it's going to take up my headspace more than it
so
should.
it's like therapy for you,
It is
basically.
like therapy for me. Yes, it is. I fully admit it. It's like therapy for me, but it's therapy that's helping other people hopefully now and then. So that's good. I'm glad my therapy sessions are helping.
All right, Dan. Well, we are out of time, and so we are
Yeah.
going to wrap it up. Final thoughts is that, guys, you don't need to be on all the social channels. Do your research on who your target customer is and where they typically will hang out. If you want to come to us for suggestions, happy to do so. You can drop us a DM at any time, and we'll be happy to help. And any other final thoughts for us?
No, I think going to people like Julie, people like myself, whether we're ultimately a fit or not for you, I think we can give you a good sense of, what is and isn't the right path to be going. But all I'll say on that is think strategy first. It'll never really steer you wrong. Put that in front of your tactics at all times. So don't worry so much about what's so hot right now, and think more about you got to have the recipe to success, and hopefully one of us can give that to you.
Ooh, I love it. I want to go eat some food and make some recipes right now. All right. Well, this is, I am Julie Nichols.
And I'm Dan Gershenson. Oh, sorry. I jumped in there.
I didn't script that part out. And this was the Lead Magnets podcast brought to you by us. And
Yes.
thanks for joining us. And until next time, have a great one.
See you, everybody.